How many deployments did you do total?
It's kind of hard to piece and be. I'd say 4. You know, like
Yeah.
5 if you totaled like little mini. We do shorter duration hits, but yeah, about 4 is about the right number.
So of those, and how many gunfights do you think you'd say you were in? How many firefights?
I couldn't count them.
Couldn't you? Just a fuck ton.
A lot.
Yeah. That's like me trying to say how many snaps of football I played.
A lot,
You know? Like, I don't know.
Yeah. No, like I said, I got very lucky in that regard. I mean, we did one deployment where I think when we tabulated the missions over 7 months, it was 300 actual missions that we went on, which there's not that many days. And so multiple things we were doing in a day. It was just staggering amount of work. Yeah.
Which you probably enjoyed.
Oh, I loved it. Yeah.
Because what's worse than just sitting around?
Nah, we don't do sitting around. yeah. It's tough. It's tough for us to be sitting around.
So what was, can you think of just 2 or 3 examples of like times when you were like, man, this is fucked.
Yeah.
You know, like this is not good.
Yeah. I mean, I think, there are a lot that kind of stick out for different reasons and different points. And there's a bunch of, kind of harrowing stuff that we'll probably be on a hunt sometime at a campfire and we'll tell more of them. I guess for the purpose of like highlighting points of things that I thought were interesting. I had one mission in Iraq when we were, a bunch of Marines were building basically a new outpost. So you got guys on big cats and D9s and, moving earth, and dude, they're in a combat zone. So you got to keep the bad guys' attention away from them so they can actually just do a construction job. And so my team was running basically what would be called presence patrols. We'd go out and basically just walk around outside of where they were and a good distance to basically draw the enemy to us and create fights so they could go do their job. So you're sort of walking around say, hey, shoot at me.
Yeah, like bait.
So like we're bait, more or less. Our guys are excited about it because they know a fight's going to break out. We're going to win that fight. But I remember we had a bunch of Iraqis, so some of the local guys we were training because we were always connected with them, and they were moving with us. And it's 116 degrees. It's the middle of the day. It's just absolutely brutal. You got all your kit on, body armor, walking through this horrific desert terrain. I remember there's a little village that we wanted to get to. We'd heard there were some kind of bad guys out there. It might be a good spot to check. And we've got to cross a little canal. So a little irrigation canal, no more than about 10 feet across. And I remember we stop right at this intersection on the other side of this crowd. We're safe. We got security set out, but we're like, hey, everybody get a little chow. Like people are going to crash if we don't get some food. Everybody get some food. Iraqis, us. My guys manage their nutrition really well, but we're like, hey, you guys better start eating or you're going to go down, even though they live there. So anyway, everybody eats a bunch of food. We'd often share food with them because they didn't have as good a food as we did or as best funding. And I remember as we're getting to walk out of this place we'd stopped, I see some M&Ms on the ground as I'm walking out, just some M&Ms that I know for a fact an Iraqi had probably been given and it dropped because one of my guys would not leave stuff behind. And I remember seeing it, something takes my focus, like I see it, somebody gets up on the comms, I've got to deal with that, and we carry on. And I remember we get, a click out of that direction. I was like, man, I shouldn't have left those M&Ms there. Like we're just leaving that's just bad basic infantry combat skills to leave something behind. We go down to this little town. I think we get in a little bit of a fight down there. Nothing horrific, but just kind of rattle the cages of this little the town. We hang out for a while and then we're coming back. And I remember we're coming back up to that intersection and I'm the patrol leader. So I'm the senior guy of the patrol, but I got my point man, the heavy weapons gunner up in front of me. And I remember my point man, who's really, really good at his job, of course, he kind of takes a knee and gets still. If he gets still, everybody gets still. I kind of scoot up to him and I was like, what's going on? He's like, man, I don't like that intersection. Like something's wrong. And I'm looking, I'm like, M&Ms were, man. And I was like, got it. I don't even say anything to him. I was like, I like your instincts. Figure out another way across this canal. So not far from there, we backtrack and we go across. There's this big pipe, like an irrigation pipe that goes across the canal. We all go walking across it. Like 2 Iraqis fall into the canal. We grab them, we get across it. But I realized when we get on the other side of this canal, we're hidden behind these willows, like just kind of like their version of willows. So I know that we could get almost up to that intersection and nobody's going to see us if we get up there the way we can go. So I kind of create in my mind, I'm like, if somebody was doing something bad where the hair on the back of my neck and my point man backed up at that intersection, this would be a good way to trick them. So I send my entire team, besides myself, one of my best shooters, one of my Heaven Web 60, gunners that can like lay it down, and one of my explosive guys. I was like, the 4 of us are staying. Everybody else patrol out because I bet we had probably 30 some odd guys in that group. There's no way they're going to think 26. They're not going to count and know that people stayed behind.
Yeah.
So just walk out of here like we're leaving. So I see my team walk away. They get off. I can tell a couple of guys are pissed because they didn't get to stay behind because something good's going to happen. It's going to happen to us. Sure enough, they get out of distance. I was like, wait about 5 minutes. We kind of let things get quiet. We start crawling. I mean, just working our way down. I see this corner. And dude, the second we come around this corner, here's like 5 bad guys with the roadside bomb they had set up to ambush us. I mean, if we'd walked through that intersection, it was like 2 80-round mortars. That would have blown up an M1 Abrams tank, let alone killed half my team. We obviously ruined their afternoon and cut all those guys down. And then it was just like, dude, that was some good stuff. Like, it was just one of those like moments where you're like, we made a mistake, identified the mistake, and it didn't cost us. But it was one of those cool like teaching points where you're like, hey,
don't leave shit behind.
Don't like forget the basics ever. Like, that was a mistake.
Because they saw those M&Ms, like, there's Americans here.
For sure. And they might have seen us gone through there, but they damn sure knew we walked right through there once we left. And probably, I bet there was more stuff left behind than I realized, So it was just one of those great reinforcements in a gunfight that, definitely didn't work out for the bad guys, but a cool moment, kind of reinforcing the training and then just trusting yourself. That's something my dad really gave my brother and I, this idea of just trust yourself, trust your gut. If something's wrong, it's probably wrong. And the worst thing you do is it's not wrong and you still are aware of the potential of it being wrong, move forward. So that was a great one. We had one mission that was really rough to be a part of where a Marine unit that we worked with a lot, one of their young guys, one of their medics was like, 19-year-old from name the center of the country straight, just one of those, everyone you would ever like be around, like he was like your little brother, right? Just that like gun-ho, good personality, great kid, just a gem to be in any unit would want that kid in there. And he got killed by a sniper. There was a sniper element that was working in this area. We were in charge of hunting that sniper team. We'd killed probably 6 of 8 of that sniper cell. And we knew the last 2 were kind of the leaders. And of course we weren't catching them because they're being the most careful. But they killed this. They killed this kid. We heard that day that he'd been killed, and it was just a gut punch the whole team because we're really fond of him. His major, the Marine that was in charge of that unit, called us and was like, "Hey, if you guys get any intel, please let us be part of it." I was like, "No problem. We can't always, but no problem." We did eventually get intel where we thought these 2 guys were, and I talked up to our senior leadership and said, "Hey, I want to bring these Marines." They're like, "You can't. Like, we've already, the battlefield, the way it's been cleared, you can't. They're not cleared to join." And I probably shouldn't say this right now. I don't think I can get the statute of limitations. Probably won't get me in trouble. I called that major. I was like, "Hey, I can't bring your whole unit, but if you and your command sergeant major, one of you guys want to come, you come with me and be in my truck. I'm not asking permission. You come." And he's like, "All right, I'm coming." So he comes on that mission. We hit this house. We hit this target. We took fire from another building, so it was kind of a hairy mission to where like external security was dealing with bad guys out and about. We had a big Spectre gunship over the top of us, which is like having God above the battlefield because they could blow up any building, hit any target, tell you what's happening. The reason I mentioned that in there is not so much how much they gave us fire support, is they can see everything beautifully well. Yeah. So when we hit targets, if you don't cover it well, if a guy runs, it's called a squirter. Like a squirter kind of got out of the target. And we get through almost this whole house, get up on the roof. We don't find anybody. And it was pretty good, solid intel that they were there. And I'm talking up to the gunship. I was like, "Man, did you guys see any squirters?" They're like, "No, nothing left that target." I mean, if they were there, they're still there. And we're like, "All right, research the house, do this." And I'm up on the roof talking to my chief, the major's right next to me, and then the gunship's watching. And all of a sudden, this water tank that's on the roof, like a 100-gallon water tank, we just hear this blub, 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 blub. And it's dead silent on top. We're all in night vision. I look over and I was like, "Did everybody hear that?" And they're like, "Yeah." And dude, we go over there and these guys are both hiding in this water tank. I guess the next part of this I probably shouldn't share, but I just say we left the major alone on the rooftop. We're like, we're going to go, check the trucks and then we'll be back. And pretty cool day to just see the major and him come down, to have guys that killed one of your guys to specifically know you got that target was just magic. It was cool to like provide that. You could tell it gave a lot of healing. I mean, it's not going to bring their teammate back, but you feel like you balance the playing field or the chessboard at that point. So I'll never forget that one. And then the final one I'll share, not to overrun, but like my favorite mission of my entire time in the SEAL teams, I write about it. I think I wrote about it in my first book, was actually not a real world mission, but it might as well have been because it was pre 9/11. It was right before 9/11 kicked off. And we used to do a lot of like kind of force security stuff where you'd test facility security on a base, on a submarine, or different things like that. It's what like Dev Group or like the top, our top team, Team 6, like that was their original edict. Besides running combat operations, it was doing all this red cell stuff where they'd sneak around and see if facilities were secure or not secure and things like that. So the Navy was doing a huge exercise down about Roosevelt Roads, Puerto Rico, and they wanted to test their port security. So a ship, big cruiser or something is at a pier. Hey, are the boats that we have and the security forces protecting this ship? So we get tasked with trying to attack these 3 ships and put like basically a fake bomb or a charge on the ship or attack it. And let's see, if you can do it. We look at the mission set and it's impossible. I mean, the normal security they'd have on this ship, we would stand a chance, but they actually don't even let us use our rebreathers, which are no bubbles. We could hit a ship. There's no way they'd know. So like, that means you need to surface, swim, or do something else to hit these ships. We're like, all right, we looked at it really like detailed, and I was kind of really in charge of this one part of the mission. I was like, I think we need to run 3 teams, these other 2 ships as a deception. Like your job is to get caught, to push it as far as you can, but basically get caught. And then me and my one buddy, we're going to try and go hit this target and actually get it right. And that night we started launching. We had to swim across this bay in the ocean, across this bay to where this boat was. The way the lighting was that night, there's a lot of shadows out, like kind of in the water. And so it was the most like frogmen I ever felt in my life, right? Because the wars took place in the mountains of Afghanistan and Iraq. Like we didn't spend a lot of time in the water. Like that job kind of went away from us. So my buddy and I are all blacked out, full wetsuits and stuff, and we swim in. Somehow we get across this bay with boats like swimming, sentries walking with guns up on the pier. We get to underneath this pier. So we're probably, I don't know, 50, 60 yards from this boat. I'm like, dude, we've almost achieved this. Like I was like not a pessimist, but I'm like, this is going to be tough. Like this is bullshit security. They definitely wouldn't be doing this on a normal day. We start doing dive breath holds to go underwater to each piling under this pier and come up slow. And then I'd like give a thumbs up to my buddy. He'd swim behind me. So underwater, no navigation ability, get up under piling to piling. You're on this breath hold for this whole time. I remember one time he goes down. We're really close to the ship. I'm on a breath hold. I get to the thing. I'm coming up. He grabs my head because he's like, there's a sentry right there. And now I'm like, you're like chicken necking because I'm like, I need oxygen. Come up, somehow we get to that ship, we swim under that sucker, put this bomb on, get back. We reverse the whole thing to make the story quick. We get all the way out of there, nothing's seen. And I'm like, dude, we just did the impossible. Like we're legends. We're going to be living legends in this community, even though it wasn't real world. But it was funny. We walked up to the front gate of that ship and kind of told the sentry there, hey, we need to talk to your executive officer, commanding officer. And so they call that back up on the radio, and then they walk us to the ship and they bring us to the bridge of the ship. Well, based on like that old game telephone, when the word gets passed, the commanding officer thought he'd caught us and we were the last pair to be caught. So he thought he'd won the night. And so I get all the way up into his combat center and we're in there as XO. And he's got this kind of grin on his face. He's like, hey, you boys did a good job. I mean, I know you're the Navy SEALs, but we got you. And I was like, you bet you might want to start running your command, emergency drills because you've got a bomb on your ship. And dude, I wish I had video of this guy's face. I wish. And God bless him. He's like, is there really one of the shots? I was like, there is. He's like, man, well done. Appreciate it. And then we left, and sure enough, they do their whole drill. They find it. But like, we got back to the team and they're like, dude, this is like, they're going to be talking about this forever. Even though it's like, little we know pre 9/11 was coming. Yeah. If 9/11 had never happened, that would have been the greatest op in the history of the SEAL teams, like post combat Vietnam. But no, it was just, the thing that I loved about that job as much as any, and this will ring, I'm sure, near and dear to your heart, is I think all of us as humans are best in our lives when we're at play, and whatever that play looks like. And I think, sadly, a lot of people think play ends when you're a kid. And look, you got to play through a professional career and get paid to do it. I got to play. I mean, I didn't get paid a lot. That's not why I did it. But I got paid to play with the best gear, the best technology, the best dudes on the international stage in the highest level threat scenario you could do. My entire job was play. I mean, every time anybody talks about it, like, it must have been brutal. I'm like, I was playing cowboys and Indians.
You're having
real
fun. Yeah.
And hunting is now that same thing. So I try and keep myself at play as much as I can.
Well, you got to do,
yeah.
If you don't do something that you love,
yeah,
then you are working.
Yeah.
Truly working.
And look,
right?
I'm sure there's people that for finance it's play. Probably the guys that
Yeah.
the high gals at the
they
highest
love
level
it.
of that game.
They
They're
love it.
playing those games and playing Monopoly, and they're like, oh boy, we just won the day, you know. So yeah, it was fun.
They love
was
it.
Fun.
They love those guys. Those finance guys love that shit.
They love it. They love it.
Like I hate it,
I
but
know.
they love it.
It doesn't do
you know?
anything for me.
But they
But
would
yeah.
hate doing the shit that I like to do.
Of course,
probably, you know.
Of course, yeah.